the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox back with another amazing episode of Nashville 2. Yes, I am using amazing. I've used it for 3 episodes in a row. You know what's amazing is the people we have on the show. That's what makes it amazing. So Nashville 2 should be called Middle Tennessee Stories, but that's too long to type. So we're just going with nashville2.com. So let's tell your story. If you know somebody that should be on the podcast, we do video, we do audio. We love to have people on the podcast to tell their story, to tell their experience in Middle Tennessee. And today, my amazing guest is Kaylin, and I'm not even going to look at the paper, Lauscher.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's German ancestry. Is that what that is?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Know that, folks. Yeah, good guess. She told me before we started recording. Anyway. So, that's what show hosts do, but I'm kind of like the magician that lets you see behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have this light bulb magic trick that if you touch the 2 connected parts, like a battery or whatever, it lights up the light bulb. And I was used at a networking event the other day, and they said, well, how does that work? And so I showed them my wedding ring that I was wearing, and it was like, they're like, oh, that is so clever. And the other guy's like, I hate people like you that spot the magician trick. I'm like, hey, I'm always handing out information and ideas on how people can improve their lives and learn things. So,
yeah.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. And I'll say that again at the end, probably, maybe.
Okay. Well, thank you for saying it now.
Yeah. Are you originally from Middle Tennessee?
No, not at all. I'm from Clearwater, Florida. So very much like beach town, tourist town, very transient. And then moved up to Knoxville after that for university for a little while. It was way too small town for me. I wanted a little bit of home again, but didn't want to go back to hot and humid Florida. So now I'm over here in Nashville and wishing that it was colder. Mm-hmm.
There you go. We're in an apartment building just off of in Franklin, and they've got a pool. Like we can't jump from our balcony into the pool because that would be a bad thing anyway, but it's further away than that, but it looks nice. It's down the hill, and then you get cold, and then you got to walk all the way up the hill, Born lazy recently had a relapse. That's what it is.
Oh my goodness. The worst that can happen after you get out of the ocean, or more specifically out of a pool, is the wind factor. That's what's actually making it so much colder, is the wind factor every time.
Yeah. When I moved to Nashville, I've been wearing the hat, and I lived 30 years in Kansas, and I've just been wearing the hat probably about 5-6 years now. Not because I'm losing my hair, although I do cut it really short. I still got lots of hair. People thought I was going bald or something, but I walked into a store one time, and the guy says, oh, you're Australian, before I'd even opened my mouth. And I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, your hat. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wear the hat. So, but in Kansas, the hat doesn't stay on my head. It gets blown off all the time because it's just plains, right? So like the winds, why when I first got there, Kansas is so windy is because Nebraska sucks and Oklahoma blows.
I've never heard that one. Thank you for that dad joke.
Yeah, you're welcome. So my Nebraskan friends and my Oklahoma friends don't particularly care for it. I said, well, at least you're not Iowa. And they go, well, what's Iowa? I said, idiots out wandering around.
Oh, they're so kind over there.
I know. It's like, really, that's how you tell your friends, because you're trash talking, right? So anyway, so the hat blows off, and I got to Nashville, and they said, oh, it's so windy here. And I'm like, no, it's not windy. It's sort of like that old trading post, the rock thing that you can buy. If it's moving, it's windy. If it's wet, it's raining. It's the weather rock. Have you seen one of these?
No, I've never seen one of those things.
Okay, so it's on like a little tripod of wood, manufactured in China, I'm sure, but it's a rock, and it says weather rock, and it's like, if it's swinging, it's windy. If it's wet, it's raining. Those are the only 2 I can remember, actually. Anyway. So it's not windy here in Nashville because my hat doesn't blow off.
No. This isn't even the windy city of Chicago. It's not Kansas. Yeah, it's nothing over here.
You know why? I don't normally touch on politics here, but the windy city from Chicago is because of the politicians. That's what's windy. Yeah, so I read that in an article one time. I don't know if it's true, but everything you read on the internet is true. So had to be true. But it said that Chicago got the name Windy City because of its politicians were blowhards.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yes,
I don't know
thank
if that's
you.
true.
Thank you
Anyway,
for that dad joke again.
yeah. But, well, it's not a dad joke. I think it's actually true from what
Oh,
I've.
you really do? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
you can.
Oh,
So I'm a ninth grade dropout, right? But that
okay.
doesn't mean I didn't love learning. I love history. I love reading. I enjoy reading a lot. I prefer, you know how most people want to watch the video on YouTube of how to do it? I
Yeah.
don't. I want to read the article of how to do it
Hmm.
because I hate going back, like, go back. Like, he talked too fast. Go, how do I do that spreadsheet formula again? Go, anyway. So I prefer reading.
Hmm.
So Kaylin and I talked beforehand. We weren't going to get into politics, so that's why I made the joke about the. She's like, "Where is he going?" I just told him I don't want to do that. So talk more. So where I grew up an hour from the beach. You know, Australia has a lot of beaches, and I made a goal that, you know, the sharks stay where they are and I stay where I am. So I'm not a big shark fan. At least on our golf courses, we don't have gators. We have kangaroos.
True, which I think actually kangaroos, if I am correct, I've never really been around them, but they're more dangerous than gators.
Um, Well,
What
you
do
know
you
what is a dangerous kangaroo is when the mad scientists combine kangaroos and elephants. You know what happens? That's very dangerous. There's giant potholes all over Australia.
think?
That is a dad joke, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I know I'm like,
if you've seen kangaroos' claws, they have claws as long as my fingers, and they can rip you. But I would think in Australia we'd fear the crocodile more than we'd fear the kangaroo. Do you know the difference between a crocodile and an alligator?
yes, but I'm scared to say it now because you know a lot. So, okay, yes. First of all, alligators, they live in freshwater. There we go. And crocodiles, I was so nervous. And crocodiles, they live in saltwater.
There
And they
is
have a
saltwater
different,
crocs, and saltwater crocs are the most vicious thing. And then there's something about the shape of their snouts or the,
yes,
you know,
yes.
and then you start throwing in like caimans and a bunch of other crocodile-ish type. But I was actually telling a dad joke. So crocodiles you see in a while, and alligators you see later.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you for that. Again, the dad
you're my fifth or my sixth podcast today, so I'm really pumped. So, and I was looking for. I mean, you're such a great audience too. You know, we had a great time last time we talked, and we've not met in person. I don't think, have we?
No, we haven't. No, because you stood me up and then I stood you up.
That's how great relationships start, standing each other up. I felt so bad.
And then I felt terrible too. It was definitely a karma thing for sure.
You know, my dogma got run over by my karma one
Uh-huh.
day, you know. So actually, did you hear about the new restaurant called Karma?
No, where is
It's
it?
down in Franklin here. You don't have any menus. You just get what you deserve.
Legit or not? It's the dad joke. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
never know now.
No.
I'm so nervous now.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to put that onto you. But I tell people, if I ever offend you, that was never the goal. The goal is to always make you laugh. And if I ever say something that is offensive, just go, well, that's not Edward. He wouldn't have meant to offend me, because I'd be horrified if I offended you, right? Like, that would not be the goal. So, okay, back to you, because Edward makes it all about him. Back to you. So you end up in Nashville because you want a little more going on, a little more stuff going on.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit more transience. I mean, really, one of my biggest things is I like diversity too. So in Knoxville, nothing, bad about people who live in Knoxville, but there's not as much of that there. There's not a lot of cultural diversity and like difference in not just like culture, but your opinion and all of that stuff. So here in Nashville, I really feel like more at home because there's a lot of more interchange and exchange. And yeah, I feel a lot more at home here. Other than it being still like a little too hot. I would love to be up in the cold. Yeah.
No. 30 years in Kansas. I hate cold weather. I hate the winter. I get the winter blues. That's when we haven't talked about what you do as a profession, but that's when I would come to you and say, I'm so depressed. Like,
Yes.
help me out. Like, I'm depressed. I know
Yep.
it's just a chemical, but I'm depressed, But talking of diversity, I love, so my kids grew up in Kansas. I built my own private cricket field in Kansas, and I interact with everybody from the British Commonwealth, right? So if people understand how big the British Commonwealth was, at one point, and how many different cultures are part of the British Commonwealth, and we're all bound by the sports of the Commonwealth, right? So the Commonwealth Games, which are the Olympics for just the British Commonwealth, and then cricket is the number 2 sport in the world behind soccer, right? And so I'm a big cricket guy, and so I love that diversity. So we were just talking at lunch about how we missed our Jamaican friends that made jerk chicken. If you've never had jerk chicken, it is delish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I have a lot of Indian friends that don't eat beef, but they'll eat like a goat curry.
Yes.
Right? And goat curry is really good too. And it's not everybody's cup of tea, but a goat curry is really good. Although my favorite curries are a yellow curry, a Thai curry. Right. I prefer the potatoes, carrots. I prefer the mild flavor of Thai curry, of the yellow curry.
Yeah, same there.
So, and then the diversity of thought, right?
Yeah.
I'm born and raised nothing, right? Wasn't, there was Christians on the outer edges, but mostly it was like, if it feels good, do it. No religion, no nothing. And so I became a Christian over here, but I love having these conversations with all these different ideas and thoughts, because, man, you never know what you're going to learn. You open yourself up to like, oh, why does a person think that way? Oh, that makes sense, right? If you're raised around a bunch of jerks, then you're probably going to think like a jerk, right? Yeah. If you're raised around a bunch of good people, you're probably going to think like a good person, right? We might have differences. So I do this thing where I say, we're going to be like these 5 things. We're going to be like the people we associate with, the books we read, the audios we listen to, the events we attend, and then they forget this one the most, the actions we take. These are the 5 things that are going to decide where you're going to be in 5 years, what your attitude's going to be, who you are, what you think like. Are those sort of like your views too on what we can learn from diversity?
Yeah, so I think like my biggest thing about diversity is just that with no challenge, there's no change. And I'm a big person about like change and just being open and connection with people. So my top 2 values in this world are challenge, which I mean, underneath that is diversity. Because again, so challenge and then connection. So those 2 things are so important for me. And if there's no challenge of thought either, then are you really thinking through the things that you actually believe? Or are you just taking them because they were presented there and it was always just the thing to believe in, or to think about, or whatever it might be? So yeah, I love that diversity isn't just about cultural background or heredity. It's a lot more about, thought and belief and lots of different things too. So
right.
Yeah.
That's a great question I have, because you've gone into business for yourself, right?
Yes.
Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family?
Okay, so a little bit, barely. Okay, so the women of my family were typically like teachers or something in that realm, and then the men were kind of in more, like steady income kind of jobs, more like technology and stuff like that. And then my mom, though, she stayed home for a time with me and my brother and sister. And so when she was staying at home with us and we were going to school, 3 different schools at different points too, there was a lot of stuff to do, and we all had hobbies. We all were asked to play a sport or do something active at all times during our life. So we were a very active family. However, she was, I guess, the first entrepreneur. She worked from home as a seamstress. Now she has her own gig in life coaching. She does like Enneagram stuff, if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so she's the first.
For people that are not familiar with an Enneagram, think a version of like a DISC or personality profiles or personality plus, different things like love languages, basically just trying to figure out and understanding yourself better. But I didn't know what an Enneagram was 3 years ago. So you can learn.
Wow, you've definitely talked to somebody with experience. But yeah, so she was the first entrepreneur. And then I have an aunt who's not blood related, but she's definitely close with the family, and she was entrepreneurial. And she later in life started some things like in that realm. But I had always wanted to be either a CEO or an entrepreneur.
And
So
where do you, if you could trace that back, because again, this is what you were talking about challenging thoughts, right? So many people come from a field that their parents were in or whatever, and the ones that actually step out and become entrepreneurs with no other entrepreneurial experience always interest me to find out, how did that bug bite? So for you, you did have some of that, but why did you decide that you always wanted to be a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I
You
think
know?
I mean, I've never been asked this question, but I love that you're asking it because per my profession, like I love to be just like into all of these things. But yeah, so I think what it came from, my first memory that popped up is I remember my family talking about my personality and how I'm a big leader and someone who is a self-starter. And I think just personality wise, it was something that led to that, because even though I wasn't exposed to many entrepreneurs out there and how it was to own your own business, I really wasn't, and I still am figuring out things right now. But yeah, I think the personality of being an entrepreneur, of being someone who's like a C-level employee, I guess, or
Right.
leader.
And what Kaylin means there is sea level doesn't mean equal with the ocean level. Sea level is like the COO, CFO, CIO, CE, whatever, all the C-suite, the leadership of a company. I had somebody ask me, they didn't know what a C-suite was. So I'm trying to get the definitions out there. You know, my wife's a pharmacist, and sometimes that verbiage, that nomenclature, you know,
Yes.
for a ninth grade dropout like myself, if I'm not in that industry, I don't understand. PRN. What the bloody hell is PRN? Oh, take as needed or daily or whatever it is. You
Yeah.
know what
Take
that
as
means,
needed.
PRN?
Take as needed. Yeah.
Take as needed. Well, how do they get take as needed out of PRN? Anyway, get off the soapbox. Back to you.
You're
See
good. No, I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you're popping in, because I was laughing at the fact that I was like, I could have been totally talking about like a Floridian or like ocean concept, like sea level. Yeah. So thank you. Thank
ground
you.
floor.
Yeah. So I think them talking about like, oh, I remember my family saying things like, you could totally be a CEO, or you could totally be a business owner, you could totally be an entrepreneur. Didn't really have a concept of that, but being someone who has, and this is a huge part of my business, is like I am someone, and I look for other people the same way, who are not fitting in the box, not going by the norm. And yeah. And so I love pioneers because that's kind of who I am. And we stick together in that way. So I think that's really where it came from, but it was more of that personality rather than the exposure to it.
As a business owner, it can be tiring paying cash for everything you need. Well, there's a better way. Introducing Trade Bank of Nashville. Our bartering service lets you exchange goods and services without the need for cash transactions. Trade Bank helps businesses like yours reduce expenses, bring in new business, and keep your cash where you need it most. Find out more and join our barter network today. Start getting what you need without paying cash, because sometimes barter is just smarter. Apply today at nashville.tradebank.com.
You know, I knew you were going to say pioneers, and I thought I had it ready, but I never actually got it ready, which
Oh
now
my
I'm like
God.
sad because I didn't have it ready. I missed out on the opportunity. Yep,
Yeah.
I don't think I have it. Ah, bummer.
It's
Oh, well.
okay. It's ingrained in my mind, and nobody knows what you are talking about. But basically, it's
I
like a
took
little
a
graphic.
fruit pie and I put ears on it, and I made it into a Zoom background, or I thought I did, but I don't have it.
You
So
did, because I remember it.
okay. Okay. So anyway, but that's okay. Yeah, because I don't know what it is, but words just jump out to me, that like croissant, right?
Yeah.
Croissant. Why, why, why? Do you know why you can't trust croissants?
Why?
Well, number one, they're flaky.
Uh-huh.
And number two, they're always angry. They're
Oh,
cross, cross. They're cross. They're angry. Cross ants.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that one's a stretch, but the flaky one is good.
The
This is how
flaky one is good.
this
The
is how
flaky
you
one
try
is.
out new material. So the thing I like about what you're saying is this conversation of where people come from that fear entrepreneurship or fear business ownership. Now, business ownership and entrepreneurship are two different things, and I'll fight anybody on that, because an entrepreneur takes an idea and runs with it and builds a business. So entrepreneurs are business owners. Business owners aren't entrepreneurs. A lot of times business owners leave a job or whatever, start a business or buy a business more often than not. It's not their idea. They didn't found it. I own 2 franchises, so I understand buying into franchise. So buying into franchises makes me a business owner, not an entrepreneur. Starting 17 different businesses on the side, that makes me an entrepreneur, right? And so helping people understand that. Now, so let's go a little bit into what you do for a living. This is sort of like, we haven't gotten 26 minutes or 28 minutes into an episode and then have somebody say what they do. But let's do that.
Wow, I'm the first. I mean, this goes with my whole thing of not fitting in the box. So thank you for that. Yeah, okay. So some people are like, oh no. And some people are like, yes, I love this when I talk about my profession. So I'm really glad it's at the end. I am a therapist, a mental health therapist. I am a counselor by profession. That's what we call ourselves technically, the license. And then I also do like corporate workshops and yoga, and life coaching is like a little bit of my thing. It's like therapy light, I like to say. But yeah, so, and then my yoga is mainly done in like the corporate sphere. So like doing corporate yoga and events and stuff too. So that's what I do. A lot of
Goat yoga. No goat yoga.
No goat yoga, no. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I just had an opportunity to start doing horse yoga or yoga with horses.
Oh, okay.
So,
Not like goat yoga where the goats walk on you. I don't want no horses walking on me. Okay, I'm just saying.
no, me neither. Me neither. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that'll be cool.
That is cool. I was talking to somebody over the weekend about that has a horse rescue farm, and they rescue horses and work with the horses. And I thought that was pretty cool too. And then I have another lady that I've had on the show, her and her assistant, that do is it equine therapy? Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is pretty cool too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting to meet lots of wonderful people through the show, and just being asked to do a lot of different things. So it's opening a lot of doors because you're adding value to other people. So who are the type of people that, if my 3 listeners that we have, my mom, my sister, and my aunt. No, my mom's passed away, so that's years ago. But yeah, she could still be listening. That's right. My sister and my aunt, they probably don't listen because I got 4 sisters. So, but my point being, it's not really about the audience. It's about my guests. First and foremost, is about my guests. Audience, don't take me wrong. You are important. But what I want to do is provide a diverse assortment, that's a better word, a cornucopia, if you will, a plethora of choices when it comes to, that's all my college words for the day, Kaylin. That's the best I can do. Plethora. I love plethora and cornucopia. Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool. And they can go together too.
Yeah. A plethora of choices, where I think of like cornucopia as food, like, because you got the horn of plenty, and the cornucopia is like a smorgasbord or a buffet for us Americanized people now. Buffet. Oh, and our next guest is here, which is kind of fun. So I like introducing my guests to each other. So Kaylin, who is a good customer for you?
Okay. A good customer for me is someone who's in their head and really needs to actually connect with their feelings or their body and their emotions. And these people actually would probably typically cringe at what I just said. So that's a good tell. And then the second way I like to say this is someone who is typically an inspiring person, someone who goes out and is a pioneer, like I said. And all pioneers, we all have stressors and difficulties in life, but I help people get through that. And I also do my services in Spanish, but that's completely different. So
yeah, the Spanish words that I've had yelled at me, I couldn't repeat on the podcast. So, growing up in Australia, we don't learn a lot of Spanish, although there are Spaniards like actually from Spain.
Yes.
But I learned some Spanish from some Mexican friends, and when I went to Barcelona, the Barcelonians knew straight away. I don't think it had anything to do with the American flag shirt, but they knew I was speaking Mexican Spanish, not Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like a little lisp with the Spain Spanish, which always cracks me up. But
cool.
Yeah.
Nathan, if you want to come on screen, I can introduce you. Or if you don't want to come on screen, that's fine too, and we'll get to you in just a second.
Nah, I need to go put my American flag shirt on before I get on here.
So, Kaylin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, we'll have all your information in the show notes. And this episode will go out in a few weeks. There's a few in front of you, but we'll tell you when that comes out. Would you come back on the show and update us in about 6 months?
Yeah, of course.
That's great. I'd love to hear more of your journeys, and maybe we'll start another podcast and talk about different things. I don't mind.
Okay, deal.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.